Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucs. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. As always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby.
Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to the Recher podcast here. Heard every day here in the Tampa Bay area, starting at noon. Thank you so much for all your love and support this week as we wrap up our first week here, going live every day at noon. The guests have been phenomenal. So have been the people chiming in. And of course, it's a victory Friday after the Tampa Bay Lightning win last night at Amalie Arena. More on that in a moment. We have Buccaneers playoff action Sunday night, Raymond James Stadium against the Washington Commanders. We'll break that down with our guy Ira Kaufman from JoeBucsFan at 1:30 today. Man, that's the thing I love about doing this podcast here with you, getting the ability to talk just about a little bit of everything, right? Of course, we're going to be hyper-focused locally at 12:45 today. Our guy Dave Gesacion is going to join us from For the Bay. If you have never shopped at For the Bay, ever not gone to their website, there's so many good shirts and hats, and man, they got a really badass shirt for Sunday night's affair against the Washington Commanders. So Dave will join us at 12:45, and of course, Lightning hockey outside, the outdoor game. It just got announced a couple days ago, the Stadium Series facing off with the Boston Bruins, and there's some ill will after last night's game. Dan, that last minute, that game took forever, and they were scrapping after the final horn as well. How did we get the outdoor game finally after all of these years? Well, we're going to find out because the executive director of the Tampa Bay Sports Commission, Rob Higgins, is going to join us at 12:15. People always wonder, how do we get these events here? Whether it's WrestleMania, whether it's Super Bowls or college football national championship games, Royal Rumbles, it's because of Rob and his crew over there at the Tampa Bay Sports Commission with Claire and Tony. And just, I don't want to start naming people because I know I'm going to forget, but Rob Higgins and his crew do such a great job of putting the spotlight on the Tampa Bay area, letting these companies know if you want to put on a big event, this is the place to do it right here in the Tampa Bay area. Always want to shout out those who are supporting early and often. Bart Hill, what's up, Jay Bird? Drew G, what's up, Jay? Happy Friday. Great game last night. You got that right. And Buccaneers podcast, Jay, are the new daily lunch listen. Keep it up, brother. Would love to have you on our pod. Reach out. Let me know. I will be happy to join you. It's been a busy week, of course, and that's the big thing, trying to figure out what my schedule is going to be and how I'm going to fit everything in. But week one, about to be in the books. Really, really happy with that. And shout out to Big Dummy Dan as well. Don't forget, next Wednesday at 3 p.m., the Beckles and Recher podcast debuts. We will be over there at the Dignitary Tea in Cava House. I was just having this conversation with somebody a couple minutes ago. I don't know if we're ever going to do, we're probably going to do a lot. I'm putting this on Ian now. I should probably call him. We're probably going to do some of those podcasts live. So that'd be pretty cool if you show up on a Wednesday at 3:00 at the Dignitary Tea in Cava House, 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard, and watch us do the Beckles and Recher podcast live. That would be a lot of fun. So this is why you want to follow us on all social media platforms at JRetcher. You see it right here and up here. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel because, man, it has grown exponentially over the last couple of years, or excuse me, last couple of months. We just want to keep that thing rolling. We want to keep it growing, and we can't do it without all the fans here in Team Tampa Bay. What a game last night for the Tampa Bay Lightning. It was a one-goal affair for the most part for the entirety of that third period. It wasn't pretty there in the third for the second straight game. It was iffy against Carolina, iffy there against Boston, but the Lightning held tight. They get a empty net goal from Brandon Hagel, which was a huge sigh of relief. And then you get a power play tally late from Braden Point, which gives him 600 career points. Think about the impact that Braden Point has had for this Lightning team since he's been called up. He's He's dynamite. He really is. He'd be an all-star this year if they were having an all-star game. He has been that good. And to see all 600 points, like he's unbelievable. The chemistry that he has with Nikita Kucherov and now Jake Gensel, it's one of the best lines in all of hockey. So really, really good to see Pointer get that accolade. He wasn't the only guy to reach a milestone last night. Ryan McDonough picked up both assists on the first 2 goals. The first goal from who scored the first one? Oh, Tough Tony, Anthony Cirelli. Oh, no, he didn't get the first one. Oh, yeah, it was Cirelli. Puck off the backboards, shorthanded goal. These guys have 8 shorthanded goals this year. They are a force. They are a menace. They are a problem for these opposing power plays. But you look at that. Ryan McDonough breaks up the play at the blue line. David Pastrnak, he pushes the puck forward. Brandon Hagel out races the Boston defender. His shot goes wide. The puck bounces heavy off the backboard. And here's Anthony Cirelli, Johnny on the spot. Laser beam over Jeremy Swayman, who I thought played pretty good last night. Gives the Tampa Bay Lightning a 1-0 lead. They get a late goal in the second period from Mikey Eyssimont. We know how important that secondary scoring is, but Ryan McDonough gets an assist on both Cirelli and Eysimont's goal. 400 career points for Mac Truck. And as much as we want to talk about offensively, the Tampa Bay Lightning defensively, that is the most important thing. How well they play defensively, how many pucks that they keep out. If they can do that, they'll be a factor. And you got to win these division games. You're going to see Boston in a couple of days. Once again, up there in Beantown, I am sure that those ill vibes are going to be carried over. So make sure you're on your P's and Q's and you play solid. Because I thought Boston played a pretty good game last night. This is a team that was on a 5-game losing streak going into that game last night. I thought they showed themselves well, but it was just too little, too late for them as they ended up scoring a goal from Mason Lohrei. But not much of an offensive threat they are. But listen, you know it's going to be a grinded out type of affair. It's not going to be a Picasso. And after their losing streak, to see the Bolts come back and win 2 games at home against 2 of their, I don't want to say rivals, but 2 of their toughest competitors over the last decade or so, Carolina and Boston, I think that's a really good thing to spring them forward as they head back on the road. I was keeping an eye on the big game last night, the Orange Bowl. I know a lot of you guys were watching that one. Wow, what a back and forth affair that was. And to be able to get out of Amalie Arena, Pete, to be able to see what was going on between Penn State and Notre Dame in live action. Wow. When you look at the run early on in the fourth quarter by Jeremiah Love, that touchdown to give Notre Dame a 17-10 lead early in the fourth, that kind of encapsulates Marcus Freeman and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Just battling, not worried about what has gone on so far. And you look at what Nicholas Singleton was able to do for Penn State, 3 touchdown runs for himself. Notre Dame getting even knocked down in the regular season, losing that game to Northern Illinois, where it was probably one of the worst losses of the year. But the ability to come back, the ability to win these games, and now win these contests here in the college football playoff, where they are one of the more maligned teams in college football. And I know there's a narrative going around the last couple of days of Marcus Freeman making Notre Dame more likable. And I agree with that sentiment. People, as much as people like to pull for the blue bloods and they like to pull for the just the old hats, the programs that have the tradition, there's as many people on the other side that want to see them fail and want to see them lose. And I posted this video on my social media at Recher. Go check it out. I brought this up on the program yesterday. People lose their mind when it comes to Notre Dame not being in a conference. Like it makes their blood boil. I like it. I think I like the differentiation. I like that there's one team out there that it's not like they just did it 5 years ago and they're just recently trying to be a badass and buck the system and we want to go rogue. No, I mean, this is what Notre Dame is. They're independent in football. Hey, more power to you. I think at times it could hurt them, but again, it's entertainment value. 1 week to be able to see them out in Pasadena playing, and again, I say the word Pasadena and I think immediately about everybody dealing with the wildfires out in California, and my thoughts and prayers go out to everybody. But I think about them playing those teams on the West Coast, and I see them coming back home and playing teams like Michigan and playing teams like Texas, who they may end up seeing in the national championship game. But I like that. I like that there's something different about college athletics and college football in particular. It comes down to the end of the game, where Riley Leonard, with less than 5 minutes to go, throws that touchdown to Jaden Greathouse. And then Drew Aller on the other side throws the interception to Christian Gray. it's not always about the stats at the end of the game. When you go back, and thank you very much, Shandy, for checking in. I know a lot of times when we try to analyze these games, we go back to the score sheet and we go like, look, this guy threw 2 picks and he only threw 1 interception. He must have had a terrible game. It's not always about that. It's not always about what the stats say at the end of the game. It's about when these plays happen. And if you look there at the end of the game, and as we got closer and closer to the clock ticking down to 0, it seemed like, and I'm not sitting here trying to pile on Penn State and pile on James Franklin because I thought they played their asses off. But it's just there was something about Notre Dame where they were kind of finding their groove. And Drew Aller said he was trying to throw that ball into the ground. And unfortunately for him and Nittany Lions fans, it went into the arms of Christian Gray. Notre Dame down the field, gets in field goal range, and then a guy named Jeter, right? And that's kind of the joke on social media. It comes up big in the clutch, and the rest is history. And Marcus Freeman and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish are now going to be playing for the national championship. So you look at their ability to be able to win these games, right? And win these games in a tough fashion and win these games when they're behind and really focus on winning the battle in the trenches. And that's why, if you remember the conversation that Ian and I had before Notre Dame played Indiana, he and I both agreed that it was probably the worst matchup for the Hoosiers in that first round because Indiana has tried to pride themselves on, all right, let's fortify the trenches. Let's build through that way, build from the inside out. That's why they were so successful this year in the Big Ten and beyond. But Notre Dame has not only done that, but they also have big time playmakers on both sides of the ball. So for all the people that have been giving them crap, I mean, you look at it, they beat the 10th ranked Indiana. They beat number 2 Georgia. They beat the 6th ranked Penn State. And that, oh yeah, they already beat ranked teams in the regular season of Texas A&M, Louisville, Navy, and Army. I mean, you got to take your hat off to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and Marcus Freeman. They're 1 win away from being national champions. First time they've been in the national championship game since back in 2013. You remember that when they went up against Alabama and came up short. They got smoked in that game. But both of these matchups should be pretty fun if they end up playing Ohio State or if they end up playing Texas. They have a history with both of these teams. And I'm going to break down that game in a little bit because I think it is just fascinating, the possibilities of that one, especially after the conversation that we had yesterday with Matt Baker from The Athletic. If you missed that discussion and you missed any of the videos, everything is up on my YouTube channel. Shout out my guy, Brian Fink. If you know who Brian Fink is, he's Evolution Radio, does a bunch of stuff with iHeart. He came up with a little mini website that is easy to remember that can take you to my YouTube page. tiny.cc/JRecher. Pretty easy to remember. tiny.cc/JRecher. So shout out to my guy, Brian Fink. Go check him out on all social media platforms. He has his great show where he talks to a bunch of different people in the music industry. He's been around forever, just an all-around great guy. Before we go on to our guy, Rob Higgins is going to join us here in a bit. Our pal Norm K, as I like to call him, passed away yesterday. Longtime employee over there at iHeart, but this is a guy that the last time I saw Norm, he was just so happy. He was working for Stingray Chevrolet. He was a big time car guy, and Norm was just one of those dudes that he was busting his ass, and some days he would spend all day in his room in the back in the barn there, and he was so frustrated. And I would try to go by and just say hello and ask him how he was doing. And the last time I saw Norm was last year. I was actually playing softball with his now son-in-law, Izzy, and he just looked so happy. And he was so happy to see me. He almost got like a kick out of it. He was like, I had no idea you were going to be here. And yeah, man, he just looked so happy. And for a guy, a lot of times when we worked together, he was always trying to meet deadlines and trying to make people happy. And he gets his job at Stingray Chevrolet, and he just looks so happy in doing what he was doing. And if I can impart that on anybody, is, man, do what you love. Surround yourself with people that you care about. That's one of my big things, and why I got into sports media, why I got into coaching, is because I knew that I was going to spend the majority of my life, working. So do something that you love, and sports is certainly that. All right, let's bring in one of the most important figures here in the Tampa Bay area, our guy, Rob Higgins from the Tampa Bay Sports Commission. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Man, what a segue. Do something you love in sports, and then you tee up Rob Higgins. That's like synonymous because I'm living the dream, especially this week and finally getting a Stadium Series game here.
Rob, so happy, and continue your fight. I know you've been dealing with some health issues, and we love you. And just to see the outpouring of emotion from your social media and all the comments and people behind you, man, it's cool to see from my perspective because I hope you know how much that you mean to everybody here in Tampa Bay. I always harken back to the national championship game when we saw each other at 4 a.m. after that game and how tired we both were, and I had to go on air at 7 a.m. the next day. And now we have an outdoor hockey game, man. I mean, it's pretty crazy that we have gotten to this point. Let's fill in our guests, fill in our viewers here of like how this whole thing kind of came to fruition from the beginning.
Well, it was at least 10 years ago that Mr. Fennick and Steve Griggs, Bill Wickett at the time, all of us really started talking about what it could look like here. And, fast forward to August of 2016, we worked together, put together a bid proposal that we shipped up to the NHL in Yeti coolers to prove that we knew how to keep ice cold as well. And really just try to lay out the vision for what it would be like here and why it would be successful. Everything from, sun studies related to the ice to what we thought the ancillary events would look like and everything in between. And then just a couple years later, we hosted the NHL All-Star Weekend in 2018. It was over Gasparilla weekend. And as part of that whole effort, we, as the NHL and, all the fans headed to the airport, we had a billboard there with a rendering of what the Stadium Series would look like inside Raymond James Stadium, and basically said, hey, next time let's go outside of the box being, an indoor arena. And then we've had, countless meetings and site visits and just continue to vet out the overall concept in tandem with, the Lightning as well as NHL. And then finally, 48 hours ago, the announcement came out that really we're all going to make history together. I mean, it's an exciting event for so many different reasons. But one of the things that I think about is how it really embodies all of what Team Tampa Bay is about. You got the Lightning playing in the Bucs Stadium. You've got, the hard work and perseverance that it took place to be able to get it here. You got the innovation and creative thinking that went into it. And then certainly the regionality of it all, where the whole Bay will take a lot of pride in getting an opportunity to host it, and so much more. I mean, that to me, I think is what's so special. All of our events that we do are a collective effort, and they all have their own story. But this one, when you think about everything that went into it, it's a pretty cool backstory.
Yeah, and I think about two other ones too, like the Frozen Four, and how everybody after that was saying like, oh my God, that like a lot of those people in, quote unquote traditional hockey markets from the North, they were like, I can't believe we knew the Lightning were here, but we didn't know that the events are going to be like this. And volleyball recently in the last couple of years, where every time I watch the volleyball national championship, now I think about the one that we had here, and it was packed, and people were just, the coaches, the way that there's no better ringing endorsement than having those guys and gals going, man, Tampa really rolled out the red carpet. People are very excited about this. And I remember going to Nashville a couple of years ago when the Lightning played the Predators. But the one question that I get, Rob, from a lot of people is, Jay, how is this going to work, right? How are we going to make sure that it's not going to be one of those random 65, 70-degree days in February of 2026? I know there's going to be a lot of fingers crossed and a lot of, prayers that we're going to have here in Tampa, but what can you tell those people as far as like when the game is going to be? Is it going to be a day in the day? Is it going to be at night? Like, what kind of precautions can you take beforehand when it comes to the planning to make sure that the playing surface is going to be good for both teams?
Yeah, I mean, we'll roll first and foremost. That's why the decision took as long as it did. I never felt like it was an if situation, but more a when. And the when was once we all had the utmost confidence, and the technology was to the point in time where we knew this was going to work. And so that, first and foremost, I think is the first global aspect of it. But we're going to come back here in the next month or two and do an actual event around and focus more so on the specifics and, shine a light on, the how in addition to the who, what, when, and where that we've already expressed. What I will tell you is there's been a lot of I's dotted, T's crossed. There's been a lot of due diligence, historical data that has flown into it. And then I think the ironic part of it all is ever since we announced, it's been between 30 and 40 degrees here. So I think we've already got some good practice in over these last 48 hours. And there's no doubt in my mind that it's going to be a big success. And you couple it with Gasparilla Weekend, just like our NHL All-Star playbook that we had from 7 years ago. And I think it's going to be something that you don't want to miss.
All right. So just to reiterate, there's going to be like another event kind of explaining how the whole process is going to work.
Yeah, we're going to come up on a press conference here in the not too distant future where we're having an opportunity. This one, obviously, it was important to roll out with the Panthers game as well at the same time, because it is such a great celebration of hockey, not only for Tampa, but for the state. I mean, you look at the success of both the Lightning and the Panthers over, the last decade, and to have, these two outdoor games taking place all within a month next year is really special. So we all wanted to certainly lean into the Sunshine State celebration of hockey, but we're going to peel back the curtain too in the not too distant future when it comes to Tampa specifically as well.
How's our guy?
I mentioned too. You mentioned Frozen 4, so it made me think of this. Is what I didn't expect and didn't anticipate, but I saw a lot on social media. The number of college hockey fans between Boston College back who won the national championship here at Frozen 4 in 2012, or BU who was in 2023. Like I just started to see a lot of different comments and whatnot, interactions on social media from some of those familiar faces that I got to know a little bit through hosting Frozen 4. So I think it's pretty cool that it is the Bruins coming here. Our community has a lot of great storylines when it comes to not only on ice with them, but the Northeastern corridor and the number of people that are either transplants or spend time here from that area. So it's really, I think, the best of both worlds to be able to have an outdoor hockey game in a special place like this, but then also have this matchup that we do.
All right. The question everybody really wants to know is, what's the likelihood that we can get our guy Titus O'Neil on skates?
Oh man, I hate Titus. The last thing I'd want to see is Titus. I love Titus. We have a love-hate relationship. It's probably 49% love, 51% hate. You can tell him I said that. I don't think he has enough athleticism to be able to skate at the level that's needed. I mean, we're talking about some of the best players in the world. If you recall, he didn't even have enough athleticism to enter the ring without tripping and falling. And that was he's only aged since that happened, 5-6 years ago. So it's I love Titus. I love what he does for the community. He's a great man. We are so fortunate to have him here in the community, but don't tell him I said all that.
It's not like we're live anywhere. People all over the Bay Area. And we got to find some skates for him too. We got to go to the equipment manager and see if they make freaking skates that big. I've always loved everything that you guys do over there. The team that you guys have at the Tampa Bay Sports Commission. Just give everybody that doesn't really know, the Tonys, the Claires, the whole crew over there, just how important they are and just how it's a 365-day type of thing of planning all of these events out to make sure that the proper spotlight is shown on our area.
Oh, I mean, we are so lucky to have the team we do. I think we have the best in the world at every single position. It really is a dream team. So, we've had Jason Augie here for 19 years, and Claire and Tony and Mike Farrant, who have all been here, 12, 13, 14 years with us. So the continuity, I think everybody, has that game day, everyday mentality. We understand what the honor it is to be able to do what we do in conjunction with the community. Katie Kicklighter and Mercedes Jorge, they all just are so talented, and it's an honor to work with them every single day. I think there's a lot of, I say attention that go on these major events. I mean, whether it's, Lionel Messi coming in a little over a month, to the Savannah Bananas in their first ever NFL stadium game in March, to the NCAA Women's Final Four in April. But a lot of people don't realize we're bidding on and attracting and hosting youth and amateur events, really of all shapes and sizes, almost every weekend. So somewhere between 100 to 120 events on an annual basis. And those events aren't ones that just, pop up and show up without, getting a lot of love and attention from our team. We have 7 team members, 7 team members. And then, usually on an ongoing basis, a couple interns. And, a lot of our competition that we're going up against could have, 20 staff members, or they could have entities that, when they're hosting similar events, that could have host committees of 30 people. But because we have such talented people that have been around for so long and have such great relationships, we're able to do a lot more with less. And I think we're really fortunate to have the team that we do have in place.
Yeah, but those other teams, they may have 20 people, but they don't put on events like the Sneaker Soiree. I mean, come on,
That's
man.
right. That's right.
What's you mentioned those 3 events there. Anything else coming down the pike, or anything else that we should be keeping an eye or an ear out about?
I mean, we're really excited about those 3 coming up. In addition to Stadium Series in 26, we also have NCAA Men's March Madness in 26. So that's pretty cool to have that,
Wow.
Stadium Series in February, and then March Madness immediately following.
That first 2 rounds?
First 2 rounds, yep. And then we just announced the Florida-Georgia game for 27. Yeah. So, these things, we say it very humbly, but I think Team Tampa Bay should take a lot of pride in it. Like, a lot of communities, would trip over themselves to have one of those announcements, and the fact that we, are so fortunate to have, the facilities that we do, the reputation that we do as a community, the volunteers that support it and, welcome our visitors the way they do. I mean, it truly is an overall team effort. So to have this many great announcements all in a row has been fantastic. And the last thing I'll say on that is we're not done yet. We're always working on something. You're not going to get it out of me, Jay. I'll proactively say that. We're always working on something, and you can promise we got the eye on the ball in terms of continuing to fill the pipeline.
It's funny. I'm up in the press box last night at Emily Arena, and we're talking about the outdoor game, and I'm sitting with the great Bobby the Chief Taylor, and he goes, "Man, who one of the most important people here in the Tampa Bay area is?" And I go, "Who?" And he goes, "That Rob Higgins guy from the Tampa Bay Sports Commission." I'm like, "Chief, he's going to be on the podcast tomorrow." He's like, "Oh, I'm going to have to tune in." But Rob, man, I thank you so much for your time, and thank you for all that you do. I mean, you're one of those people that really makes everybody here in Team Tampa Bay proud. And we know you're always putting your best foot forward. You and the entire team, give everybody my love. And stay strong, man. Keep fighting that good fight, brother. And have a great weekend. We'll talk to you again soon.
I appreciate it, Jay. Thanks for all that you do for Team Tampa Bay as well.
Appreciate you, man. Good stuff. As always, the one and only Rob Higgins, the executive director of the Tampa Bay Sports Commission. Doesn't get better than that. And I think it's important to be able to highlight guys like Rob, where you may only hear his name, you may only see him like peppered throughout the year when we have the big events. But man, when you look at the events that we've been able to see, I mean, I did this a couple of years ago with a couple of buddies of mine, Bo and Bill. I went through this bag. I have this big bag of all the credentials that from all the events that I've been to in the last 10 plus years. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm not trying to be like that, but I'm just trying to say that here in the Tampa Bay area, for all the talk about all these other major cities and all these major events, like Tampa's been able to do everything. Tampa's been able to host. Think about this, right? and I know obviously we didn't have it, in 2020 because of the pandemic, but World Series, right? Back in 2000 and what was it? 2008 against the Phillies, right? We've had multiple Super Bowls here, including the one where the Buccaneers were able to win at home. That was such a great event to be at because of what we were going through with the pandemic, and just to have that game there is very special. We've had Stanley Cup Finals games here, of course, because of how good the Tampa Bay Lightning have been, right? We had the Raptors here for a little while during the pandemic. I know it wasn't a huge hit, but they were here, right? Plus the relationships with all these teams. Everybody works together. UT, USF, Rays, Bucks, Bolts, Rowdies, like everybody, man. Just awesome. I think I might do that. Big Dummy Dan. Those press creds are like some folks' photo albums. They're sacred memories of a lifetime. Would you guys be interested in that? And this is a video or an idea that I got a couple years ago from Rich Hollenberg. Rich Hollenberg, who has done such a great job, whether it's on ESPN with college basketball or with the Rays, of course, pre and post game. Like he's one of those guys I consider a friend. I consider a mentor. When I try to take that next step in my career, Rich Hollenberg is always one of those people that I reach out to. And I implore you to go check out whatever Rich is doing. Go follow him right now. Tell him that you heard it right here on the Jay Recher podcast. We keep trying to get him on. He's been busy. Every single time I text Rich, he's on the plane or he's about to go, at Rich Hollenberg. And what Rich is doing right now, he does a lot of stuff for future broadcasters, right? It's called the Break-In Breakthrough Program. Go check him out at Rich Hollenberg. And he is helping that next generation. And I can't express my gratitude for him enough. But there was a video that Rich did a couple of years ago where he would, I can't remember if it was just him. I think his son was involved, where they would reach into a bag and he would take out a press credential and then he would tell a story about that credential. I thought that was such a freaking awesome idea. I've got 2 huge bags of credentials. Do I have any here on my desk? I don't think so. I don't think I have any right here on my desk. Do I? Tickets here? Actually, I do. Let me see. Let me see here. Training camp media, national champions, national 2, rock and roll. All right. Well, I got one. Let's see. Oh, how about this? Check this one out. Look at that. Okay. I don't have anything on there. You guys can't. Check that out. That is from this year, week 1 of the NFL season. Bucks, Commanders. Wow. How about that? Pretty ironic to be able to have that. And then another ticket I have here for the NCAA Division II National Championship when UT was able to win their national title. Would you guys be interested in that? Would that be a cool thing to do on the website here? I mean, on the podcast here, like every day doing 1 or 2 credentials and kind of giving you a background of some of those events. I mean, I've got some good ones. And when you think about it, I've been able to travel all across the country to cover these teams here in the Tampa area. Remember, I went to UFC 205 in New York City, following the Lightning, and shout out to Steve. Steve thinks it's a good idea. Steve, let me guess. Capitaneus? Is that right? Steve Capitaneus? That's a good try, Steve. I'm sure a lot more people have butchered your name. I think Steve Capitaneus, is that right? Steve, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Big Dummy Dan says 3-minute video series. I would watch it. All right, Steve, I pronounced it right. Appreciate you, brother. Yeah, I wonder if that's just another thing, because you got to come up with different stuff. Once football season is over, things change, right? We know that the content's going to change, but I hope that when you see all that stuff back here, that there is going to be a lot of different things we talk about, not just here in the Tampa area, but abroad, and more than just football, right? We know football's king. We know that there are so many big time storylines, and we're going to get, we're going to get into a lot of that stuff. And there's so many NFL storylines outside the regular season and the playoffs too. So I'm not saying we're not going to talk football, but I'm excited for baseball season. Somebody, our guy Nick from Sarasota, who would always hit us up when we were at iHeart, Nick in Sarasota's like sending me videos last night about baseball. He's like, "Are you going to talk about this?" It's like, "Yeah, man, of course." Not that specific thing he sent me, but I can't wait for baseball season, right? I can't wait for all these different things that are going on because we're going to get into it. Richie P, you should do that just to have something to go to later on in life to remind yourself of shiz you did and you were involved in. Yeah, bro, as you get older, you just forget stuff. Yeah, that's a good point. And I mentioned Bobby the Chief Taylor, and this is why I enjoy doing this podcast. And thank you all so much for supporting it. And make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube and share this on all your social media accounts. Some of the things that I've been able to experience in the last 10 plus years covering these teams, I wish I had a microphone or a camera on. Like last night, I'm sitting there talking to Bobby the Chief Taylor, and you guys know Chief from the Lightning for being with them forever. And Chief is telling me last night that he was playing fast pitch softball and semi-pro baseball and how he came up in the Chicago Blackhawks system and that the Blackhawks had two different like minor league farm systems. One was in Sault Ste. Marie, which is where Phil Esposito's from, and one is in Alberta where Bobby the Chief Taylor is from. They're 3 years apart, but how crazy that after all these years, now they're here in the Tampa Bay area. And Chief and I were talking about fast pitch softball. And if you guys know anything about softball and Eddie Feigner and King in his court, go check out that stuff. This guy used to pitch with the blindfold on, strike people out. He strike people out from second base. Eddie Feigner, go look it up. Not right now. I don't want you to leave, but just go look up Eddie Feigner. What an incredible story when it comes to fast pitch softball. And Phil told me that when he was young and playing hockey for the Boston Bruins or in Chicago, Phil was telling me that during the summer of his hockey career, he would play fast pitch softball. He would work, he would play softball, and then he would work and then play softball. And that's what he did in the summer, which is so crazy because if you know me at all, my dad was a nationally ranked pitcher in softball. I've been playing softball since I was 15. I'm about to be 40 in May. So, I mean, I still got the gloves right here. I mean, you saw the gloves the other day. I mean, this is no Mickey Mouse out here. We're definitely get it working. Pin dingoes all day, every day. And then talking to Phil last night, because if you watch the Lightning game, well, if you follow me on social media, you saw that I got a picture of Connor Geekie and Morgan Geekie. What a dream that had to be for the Geekie family to see those brothers go at it. But I was talking to Phil about the time that he ended up playing his brother, Tony Esposito. And back then, remember, you weren't watching these games on TV. And the only way that your family members that didn't go to the games or hear them on the radio, you had to call and tell them what happened. So Phil tells me, because of what happened with Morgan and Connor Geekie last night, about the first time that he played Tony Esposito, his brother, who was a goalie for the Chicago Blackhawks. And Phil said, I had to call my mother and I had to call Tony's wife and let him know what happened. I said, what'd you say? Well, he said the same story to both of them. And he told them that it ended in a 2-2 tie. And everybody was happy. Like, oh, that was great. You know, you guys will both get a point. You both move on. That's great. Hope everybody's safe and, hope everybody played well. And then Phil's mom goes, all right, Phil, who scored the first goal against Tony? And Phil goes, oh, that was me. And she goes, oh, okay, that's good. It's good that he played well and you got a goal. And he said the same thing to Tony's wife. And, everybody was all happy. And then Phil's mom says, all right, Phil, who scored the second goal against Tony? And Phil goes, well, Mom, that was me too. And she goes, you son of a gun, you're going to ruin your brother's career. How dare you score goals on him? Like, what a great story of Phil and Tony Esposito and Phil and Tony's mom complaining and yelling at Phil over the phone saying, how dare you score a second goal on your brother? That's going to knock him out of this league. What are you trying to do? Don't you care about your brother? Like, what a great story. And that is the kind of thing that you're going to get here on the Jay Recher podcast. But that's the kind of thing that I get when I'm at these Lightning games and I'm sitting there with the great Phil Esposito after every period, during every intermission, talking about stories from his career, stories of his life. I'm blessed, man. I really am. I don't take that shit for granted. I got to be 100% honest with you. And for some reason, like, it's not me. I don't go bother Phil. Like, right? He's a legend. And the best way to put it is Phil has 3 more goals than Babe Ruth has home runs. Think about that. Babe Ruth had 714 home runs. Phil has 717 goals. But he always comes. Last night I'm standing there, he's talking to somebody, and all of a sudden, he's talking to Franz John, the Lightning goalie coach. And I'm just standing there like all, straight up, and Phil like knees me. You know when somebody's standing up and then somebody knees you like in the back of your leg and you kind of like slump down? Phil did that to me last night in the middle of a conversation with Franz John. Like he's always messing with me, and I give it right back to him. I call him an old fart, old dusty fart. I told him that he was never good and that like he was the worst athlete in Boston. I always say the greatest Boston athlete of all time, and then I'll just name some random Boston Bruins player, and he'll just like flip me off or walk away. One time he was having a conversation with like 4 or 5 different guys, and I'm talking like Larry Robinson and Scotty Bowman and all these different guys that have like won multiple Stanley Cups. And then all of a sudden, Phil just takes a step and he like hip checks me. And he goes, you're from New York. You can effing take it. I'm like, you son of a bitch. Like that Phil is the same way on the air as he is off the air. There is no type of like, he doesn't hold his tongue. He is the same way every single day. Like we called my brother one time. There's another example. We were in Colorado, Stanley Cup final, and we have this media dinner. And I can't imagine how it is like for these big time hockey fans and wanting to sit next to Phil and during dinner. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to sit here to the side. I'll sit on this side. Like, I know people are just going to be, you want a piece of that relationship, that friendship, that conversation. All of a sudden, Phil just walks all the way down to the end of the table. I guess I know where I'm sitting right next to me. He's like, let's get the wine going. I was like, and I'm not a big drinker, but if Phil Esposito says you're going to drink wine, you're going to drink wine. So I'm explaining to Phil, I'm like, Phil, my little brother is one of those guys that feels like the guys in the 80s and 70s were terrible. And the guys nowadays would be able to go back in time and beat the living crap out of them. Right. So Phil goes, I think your brother's a freaking idiot. And I go, let's call him right now. Now, mind you, it was like 9:00 at night in Colorado. So 2-hour time difference is 11:00 at night. My brother is laying in bed with his daughter. She's sleeping. And we FaceTime my brother. And I'm like, hey, what's up? And my brother's like, hey, what's going on? And I'm like, somebody wants to tell you you're an idiot. He's like, what? And I turn the phone and it's Phil. And he goes, Ryan, you're a freaking idiot. And my brother just starts dying laughing. And the three of us start crying because we're laughing so hard. It's such a great friendship that has grown over the years. I don't think I deserve to be able to be, called a friend for a guy like Phil. But, when we lost our son a couple of years ago, Phil's one of the first guys that reached out. And, man, it's just, we're so lucky because he brought hockey here. But personally, I mean, that guy is just, it's never a dull moment. And every time he looks at my shoes, he always has something funny to say. He actually liked the blue ones. If you missed the blue shoes, we showed them on the show yesterday and also in the Recher's Rapid Reaction. So at the end of every Recher's Rapid Reaction, whether it's at Lightning, whether it's at Bucks, Rays, USF, UT, you're going to see the shoes at the end of that 1-minute video. He actually liked the blue ones. A lot of fans liked the blue ones last night. They didn't think they were too outrageous. I always feel like I set the bar. I don't want to say too high, but I set the bar at a certain level that if they're not wacky enough, I think they look at it and they're like, nah, I can't wear a black shoe. I wore a pair of brown shoes last year, like a regular brown. And people were like coming up to me. They're like, are you okay? Are you good, dude? Like, what's wrong with you? I like disappoint people. Dolan wants to know, are there any shoes that you wear that Phil actually likes? He liked the blue ones last night because it was kind of like, and you heard TJ Reeves mention yesterday, like a Memphis blue, kind of like a lightning blue, maybe a little bit lighter than a lightning blue. But he liked those. He likes the ones that I have like crazy designs on. Do I have one of my other ones? No, I thought I had one with like the white tiger head on. He hates those. Like I have the white one with like the lion on the front. He hates that. It's so funny. And like him and John Cooper, they almost have the same things to say where Coop will come up to me and goes, I'm not surprised you would wear those shoes. I'm surprised people would make them in the first place. And I go, thanks, Coop. And last night, John Cooper's son, Johnny, always walks in to the press conference. Always. And last night, for some reason, he didn't. And Coop looks down and he goes, damn, Johnny missed some good ones. I'm like, all right. Because if they're not good, everybody lets me know. which is, it's all about style. It's all about funk. It's all about flavor. That's how it is here in the Tampa Bay area, and it's not going to stop. A guy that knows a thing or two about style, our guy, Dave. For the Bay clothing. I see For the Bay stuff, and you see the hat, the old school hat right up there, brother.
Love it. Yep, that's it. I love it.
Bro, where was I? I was somewhere. I don't know if I was in New York. I was somewhere in a distant land here recently, and I saw a For the Bay shirt and hat combo, and I was just like, I was gonna take a picture and send it to you, but I was like too busy fist pumping. I was so happy.
Like a mini cult, right?
I know. And then I saw the video last night that Ryan Bass did when he was over working on the TV side and it was when you guys were popping up, and it was right after, just when you guys were still outside. I think it was before the store. And it was just so cool to see how far that you guys have come. What's going on, brother? Happy holidays. Happy New Year. How are things with you and the fam?
It's great, man. We appreciate you having us on. It's been crazy. I mean, Q4, as you know, here in Tampa Bay, it doesn't end with Christmas. It ends with Gasparilla. So we're full steam ahead with Gatsby gear and playoff football here in the Bay and some hockey homestands. So we're gearing up, man.
You got that right, buddy. And how excited were you? And so I start thinking of things now when like different events and different things come out. When the Lightning announced the Stadium Series thing, were your wheels spinning?
My inbox
I'm thinking about you, and I'm just like, oh my God, Dave and the crew over there are gonna go wild with this thing.
Yeah, our inbox was flooded yesterday. Like, I can't wait to see you're gonna do scarves and toques and beanies, and I'm like, I got a year. We'll be ready. But yeah,
you guys take ideas for stuff like that, or because I know you have the thought process that goes into this. You got to be very meticulous. You got to make sure the designs, they pay off. Do you take ideas from people, or is that just the brainchild of you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we're fans just like all of you, like everybody else. So there's people that will send us some things, and I always say, if we do it, you'll be the first one to get a free shirt. So, but yeah, it's cool to kind of see just what other Tampanians have in mind, and obviously we have a design team that has been amazing and helped us take our crazy thoughts that we have in here and get them print ready. But yeah, I mean, people have got a lot of cool ideas. So it's, if we can help make Tampa Bay a better place by somebody else's idea, we'll try to do that.
And I know you've, being involved in the swim community for a long time, and you understand it takes a village type of thing, right? And you get that as much as anybody. That Team Tampa Bay, it's really all of us. But when you see professional athletes, when you see coaches, when you see like big time dignitaries wearing the For the Bay stuff, like, what does that mean to you and the family personally, man? Because it's awesome for me, and we're just friends. You know what I mean? Like, I love seeing it myself.
Yeah, it's surreal. I mean, we just had a friend pop in here, Kelsey Beaumont. She's we met her, like, first person we met doing the clothing company, and she's blowing up with her bracelet business and doing a bunch of things in the community as well. And we're just chatting about we're already bursting at the seams at the store here, and it'll be a year, April 20th. So we're you don't know how it's going to go when you get started, and then you keep you have goals, and my wife and I have goals, and we just every decision we make, you want to make it towards getting closer and closer to where you want to be. So and we've been blessed to have some incredible partnerships from our print shops and our designers and other small businesses in the Tampa community, and people like yourself that have embraced us and embraced the idea of For the Bay. And the teams use the terminology on their Twitter accounts, and but I got to meet Baker and the O-line at Davis Island back in December, and just amazing people, amazing guys that just like you and I, there's just really, really good at sports, and but it never gets old. Like you said, right. Seeing people at an airport, seeing people wearing your stuff, or somebody will send you a picture, and they're across the country and or across the world. It's very humbling, and we take a lot of pride in it, and we want to make sure that everyone's proud of what we're doing.
We certainly are, Dave. And I want, for those who don't know, and we had you on air over at iHeart, last year, but I think it's important because especially now with me, like the transition in my career and my life, and do I want to do the Jay Recher podcast? Yeah. You know what I mean? I gotta continue going. I gotta continue pushing. I gotta bet on myself. For those who don't know the story with you and Allison, I think it's important for you to tell people out there that are maybe tepid and making a change in their life, maybe tepid and making a big decision. The decision that you guys made to go full bore into this thing, and we know it's paying dividends now, but just take us through that thought process. If you guys had reservations, and when you finally had that breakthrough.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're obviously looking at COVID, March 12th. I'll never forget it. I was driving to Orlando for a swim meet, and got the whole world shuts down, right? So we spent the next 16, 17, 18 weeks at home. You couldn't do workouts with your athletes. You're doing Zoom calls in the morning and Zoom workouts, and I'm sitting by the pool at home at noon, and you can only drink so much and not do, and just sitting there just wondering when your life's going to get back to normal, whatever normal is. And Allison had a very high level sales job with, she's been in education her whole life, and she's incredible at, educational consulting with companies and hands-on manipulatives and things like that. She was actually just flew back from Chicago yesterday, doing some work up there. And she just hated it. I mean, just the sales pressure, and I just saw her dying every day, just hating it. And then the Buccaneers signed Tom Brady. And I grew up in Northeast Ohio. Everybody kind of knows my story. There's a lot of brands that do what we do across the country. Some incredible, people that we've met along the way and share ideas and our journeys together. And my wife looked at me. I was driving home from the pool one day, checking on the pool, and she's like, "You should start the clothing brand." And I was like, "Really?" And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, we don't know what we're ever going to get back to. So I was like, "All right." So we came home and sat at the table right there by the front door. I'll never forget it. And she's like, "Yeah." She goes, "If we're ever going to do it, we need to try it." And I was like, "Okay." So I pull up Sunbiz and I started an LLC, and we're like, "Okay, what do we want the name to be? Do we want it to be, Tampa Bay Clothing, or this stuff?" And we're going, and I'm like, that's boring. And she's like, "How about For the Bay?" And I was like, "Oh my God." I'm like, "Yeah, that's it." I was like,
"When you know, right?" When you know, you're like,
yeah. She's definitely the brains behind the business here. But yeah, so it just, we just started with an idea and a concept, and obviously our 813 design was our first design that we released, and that's our trademark. And we launched, so we built the website. First 6 designs launched August 7th of 2020. And then the Bolts go on to win the Stanley Cup 2 months later. Rays go to the World Series a month after that. Bucks win the Super Bowl. Bolts win it again 10 months later. And, then we're on our way, so winning obviously helps a lot of things, and the buzz and people moving to Tampa, specifically because of COVID, and they don't want to be cooped up in New York and Jersey and all those other areas up north. So it's like the perfect storm. The Tom Brady effect was real, the boat parades. And then, we got lucky. We did some great designs.
Right.
And just the boots to the ground. I think that's something that, we have 6 kids, and they see how hard and smart we work. And it's, you say you trade in your 9 to 5 or whatever it is to work 100 hours a week. It's not, people don't see that. They just see, the kind of the designs, and they see the website and see that you're doing well. But it is a nonstop grind. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I love every second of it. The people that we get to meet and the relationships we're building, it's truly the most exciting thing I've ever done in my life. But yeah, so that's kind of gives you a 30,000 foot view there.
Yeah, man. And just before we had Rob Higgins from the Tampa Bay Sports Commission on about half an hour ago, I was talking about taking a chance on yourself and doing what you love, and saying what your wife did. Like, yeah, what about quality of life, right? I mean, some people always look at like, oh, I'm making this amount of money and this and that, but it's just like, it's about quality of life, man. You said you had 6 kids, man. If you're waking up every day and you got to do whatever it takes to keep a roof over their heads and keep food on the table, shit, man, you want to do something where you're not dreading going to work, right? I implore anybody that's watching this today. I've done all the jobs, man. I was usher at a baseball stadium. I was working at movie theaters. I was serving. I was bussing overnight at FedEx, man. And I was like, I don't care what I got to do. I got to get the hell out of this lifestyle. And I moved to Florida when I was 20 because I was like, man, I want to do something that I love. I got into coaching, then I got into radio, and then the rest is history. I know you got a big design, new shirt coming out. What is it coming out today? Let us know. Yeah,
got it right here, my friend. So I'm wearing mine.
Nice.
Yes, we want to come up with something. Obviously it's playoff push, but it's a year-round thing. This is back of the shirt. But bringing the ship home. Bring the championship back today. Absolutely. Probably one of our favorite ones that we've done to this point. We've got our front left chest design there. That might end up being a hat patch here soon as well. But yeah, so I'll bring the ship home. It's in store right now. We did a unisex T-shirt. We also did a really nice crew neck sweatshirt. It's about to be, I think it was going to be 42 degrees Sunday night. So we got a black crew neck sweatshirt. Those are in store as well. We also did a comfort wash, which is 100% pre-shrunk cotton. This is going to be a big seller.
Nice.
So, creamsicle blend there. We also did a sweatshirt of that same design as well. So we knew it was going to be a chilly night football. So we've already had a lot of people stop in the store today. Some local pickup orders online so people can pick up before we'll be shipping out today too. So if you pick priority shipping, we'll probably get it tomorrow. But yeah, stop in the store, man.
Those are badass, brother. ForTheBayClothingCo.com. Incredible. What's the big? Are those just regular sweatshirts? Are they hoodies? What are just regular sweats?
Yes, we did crew necks on those just because the design. We don't want to get lost.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah,
nice
crew neck, super soft, super comfortable, unisex for both the cream sweatshirt and the black. Bring the ship home.
Love that, man.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see a lot of those around the stadium Sunday night.
Heck yeah, and our guy Richie P, nice. I'll pick one up for sure. Just be like Richie P, man. Get on out there and support our friends at For the Bay. Again, ForTheBayClothingCo.com. What else we got coming up over the next couple weeks, man? Any ideas of, I know you're always keeping your eyes and your ears out, like I said, with the stadium series, but any big events or any big things in the works?
Yeah, so Sunday we'll be at Armature Works before the game. So you guys can come see us at Armature Works 11 to 3 inside the gathering room, and then we'll be getting out of there. We'll be the first ones to hit the door there and pack up and get ready to get down to Ray J to have some fun at Ray J Sunday night. Then we've got Mezzo Market in St. Pete down at the Edge District, the 18th, which is the Kids Gasparilla Parade Day in the 813. But yeah, a lot of Gasparilla stuff. Our store is filled with Gasparilla stuff for youths and women and kids or adults and men. And then we've got a new Gasparilla hockey inspired design coming in the next weeks too. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be killer. But yeah, we're already gearing up. We're already thinking about where we're our spring collection and summer collections are underway. Just got a big email yesterday. We did partner with IndyCar last year for the St. Pete Grand Prix.
Nice.
We just signed on to do it again this year. So we'll be down doing a design for IndyCar again this year.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see that design, man. For the Bay Clothing Co. on Instagram, For the Bay CC on Twitter /X, and just go to the website. Everything is on there. ForTheBayClothingCo.com. You can see their story, the collections, the hats, accessories. Go get some gift cards too. You want to talk about something that you're looking for an idea. I know the holidays just passed, everybody that's watching, but birthday gifts, right? You just don't know what to get somebody. Get them a gift card, right? For the Bay Clothing, and let them pick out what they want to pick out, because there's so many different designs. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So you may like something, but somebody might love that. They might like something else. So there's a lot of great things there. Dave, continue success, my brother. Thank you so much for joining me today. And we'll be in touch, man. If you have another big design you're going to drop, make sure you reach out, man. We'll get you right back on the show.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it, brother. Keep up the good work.
Pal. Thanks, buddy. The one and only Dave Gesacion. For the Bay Clothing Co. Just, you could sit there all day and look at all the different designs. And Dave's been so generous. I have one of my orange hats. I got to go get one of these. I'll get it. I'll show you guys. Can I get it right now? Hold on. I should have did this when he was on with us. But this orange hat right here, this bad boy right here, is one of the most, I get so many compliments on this hat. This is the hat that I wear to the beach. I love this hat so much. And I am not a fitted, I'm a fitted hat guy. I'm an old school, new era 5950. Like, that is my thing. But this hat right here, this For the Bay hat, For the Bay since 1976, Tampa Bay. See the design right there, bro. This thing, I don't want to put it right. Look at that. It's badass. I get so many compliments on this hat. The one thing I love about the designs, the one thing I love about For the Bay is that they're creative with the designs, but there's also, if you like any type of art, there's a balance between complex and simplicity. And that's what you get from these guys. And that's what I love. And it's a family brand. You hear Dave talking about a guy and his wife. They have 6 kids. Swimming has been their thing, right? And they know what it's like to be part of a team. They know what it's like to make sure that everybody has to be on board to be successful. So that's why every single time that I see something for the Bay, I'm letting everybody know, support them. Again, I love this freaking hat. so much. And again, I'm not a snapback hat. I always think that's important when you're talking about products out there. It's one thing if you're a guy that loves bacon, and you're like, hey, I'm endorsing bacon. Everybody's like, yeah, dude, yeah, of course you love bacon, right? But if you're a guy that doesn't like a certain thing, but the product that this certain company has, you like and you wear and you endorse, I think that goes a long way. So again, for me, a guy that doesn't wear snapback hats, I wear this almost every time I go to the beach because it's comfortable as hell, and I get, it's clean looking, man. It's clean. I love it, and I get a lot of compliments on it. So, Dave, I love you. Love all the people over there at For the Bay. Look at Richie P. He's already gotten 4. Richie P's already got 3. Excuse me. How great are you, Richie P? All right, follow me on all social media platforms at JRecher. We're going Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Hope you are too. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Every single little bit helps. Ira Kaufman is going to join us at 1:30 today to break down this Buccaneers matchup with the Washington Commanders. Let's get into the Orange Bowl tonight. The Cotton Bowl tonight. So, Cotton Bowl tonight, we know that it's going to be Ohio State and Texas, 7:30 on ESPN. 12-2 Buckeyes, 13-2 Longhorns. Texas is the 5 seed. Ohio State is the 8 seed. And I just keep going back. The more and more I think about this game, I keep going back to what Matt Baker had to say from The Athletic. Again, go back and listen to that conversation, because Matt was there in New Orleans for the Sugar Bowl and everything, the tragedy there. The way he was able to so eloquently put what that atmosphere was like was great. Talking about the game last night, Notre Dame and Penn State, but then this game. He says that he wouldn't be surprised if Ohio State just absolutely trounces Texas. And they have that balance, don't they? Like, when you think about it, they have the Jack Sawyers of the world. They have the Travion Hendersons, like the seniors. This is a very veteran-laden team, which you don't always see in college athletics anymore, because guys are so quick to either take that money and go somewhere else, or take that, head to the pros. I mean, it helps that, it took $20 million to put this program together. But if they did it within the parameters that everybody else is playing with, I can't fault Ohio State for doing that. But it's balance. I mentioned the veterans in Sawyer and Henderson, the freshman Jeremiah Smith. I mean, if you had to pick one wide receiver to help you win a game today in college, it might be him. And you have some really good veterans on the squad there with Ohio State. It's not just him. And then Will Howard, he knows the Texas Longhorns, played him 3 times at Kansas State. The more and more I watch back some of the highlights that I was doing last night and this morning, and just reading up and doing some research, I don't want to say I'm coming around to what Matt Baker is saying, but it's not as much of a shock if Ohio State just comes out and steamrolls Texas. I'm looking at Jahdae Barron, All-American corner at Texas. Can he slow down Smith and company? Can he slow them down, make it difficult, right? Don't let them take the top off the defense, right? If you keep everything in front of you, I think you'll be okay. But it could come down to the quarterback play with Quinn Ewers or Arch Manning. I don't know what it is, and maybe I'm drawn to this story because it's a Manning, because it's Arch, but I just feel at some point, and we've seen it this year already, where Steve Sarkisian will insert Arch into the game to give them a spark. It's weird to do that in football with a quarterback when you put so much pressure and you put so much, and I'm not saying pressure in a bad way, but that's just the way it is, right? The quarterback position in football it's unlike anything else in sports. So much responsibility on the field, off the field. To be a leader, you got to be able to put things behind you. You have to know where everybody is at every single moment. I don't want to say it's a sign of weakness that you have to go to another younger quarterback to find a spark for your team, but I think it's telling too. It's not the Florida Gators when Tebow was a freshman, where they had different, packages, where Chris Leak was more of the traditional quarterback and Tebow was the short yardage guy, and you kind of knew the pecking order there. I don't think you were worried about that as much, because you knew that there was such a difference between the two. I look at the situation with Alabama years ago, where Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa, and then at halftime of the national championship game, Nick Saban, one of the most accomplished college football coaches in history of the game, decides to go to Tua. And I just wonder if it's, I mean, we remember the game winner that he threw to Devontae Smith to beat Georgia. But I just wonder at some point tonight, whether it's at the quarter, at the end of the quarter, at the end of the half, if they don't just go to Arch Manning and just kind of ride it out because he gives them the best chance. We saw it earlier this year against Georgia. Could we see it again tonight? I think you do. I think if you had to put money on it, I would put money that you see Arch Manning at some point taking over for Quinn Ewers. But if I'm Sark, and I get it, I get how good Quinn has been this year, but you want to make that decision before it's too late. So don't be surprised if there's a quick trigger on Quinn Ewers, if he throws maybe some early interceptions, if we don't see Arch Manning. And, you know, with his athleticism and his arm talent, this is an opportunity for him when the lights are the brightest to really put his flag in the ground and going, all right, I'm not just the quarterback next year, I'm the quarterback right now as well. Time for my predictions when it comes to the NFL playoffs. I want to hear from you as we go through these games in the National Football League. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Who do you think is going to win? Who do you think is going to be the big-time players for these games? We're going to start out Saturday at 4:30. The Los Angeles Chargers travel to Houston to take on the Texans. LA, the 3-point favorites in this one on the road. Now, that may take some people by surprise. You're talking about a Chargers team with first-year head coach Jim Harbaugh, and you're talking about the Houston Texans, the clear-cut winner of the AFC South, went to the playoffs last year. We know what CJ Stroud was able to do as a rookie. Wasn't able to completely replicate what he was able to do last year, but there's some good players, even though they lost a ton when it comes to injuries at the wideout position with Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs. But I agree with the Vegas odds here. There's just something about this game that I like the Chargers. I like the fact that they were building through the trenches and that it was so important to them. Even though somebody said you could have this guy, they went out and got Joe Alt to partner up with Rashawn Slater and said, hey, we're going to run the football. Look at how successful J.K. Dobbins has been this year when he's been healthy. Justin Herbert, I know we're a little jaded because we saw what the Buccaneers were able to do to them, but I don't think that the Houston Texans are going to be able to do that same thing that the Buccaneers were able to do to the Chargers. There's something I like about this Jim Harbaugh-led team. Like this since day one. If you remember when I gave my predictions before the season, I actually had the Chargers making the playoffs. I think Harbaugh is a better coach than DeMeco Ryans, even though DeMeco is a good coach. I think he's a fantastic defensive mind. But Jim Harbaugh is one of the elite coaches in all of football. Let's not forget that. And we want to talk, and I get it. You can't win without talent. I understand that. And I'm not saying DeMeco Ryans. I think DeMeco Ryans is a good coach. But I think Jim Harbaugh is a great coach. He is one of the guys in the league when you look at and you go, that guy can win a game just to have his guys prepared, just because he knows what he's got to do to be successful, better with the timeouts than some of these other coaches. I really like the Chargers in this game. I think it'll be close, but I agree with Vegas. I think they win this one maybe by 3 or 4 points. Saturday night, 8 o'clock, the Pittsburgh Steelers travel to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. There's just something so poetic about two AFC North teams facing off in the playoffs, right? I mean, you can't get better than this. You can't. I mean, you look at rivalries in the NFL. Is this the best one? You tell me, best rivalry in the NFL right now. Probably Steelers-Ravens. And they don't have to fight. That's the thing is, people look at rivalries in sports and it's like it has to be this big knockdown, drag out. They got to be brawling all the time. No, you could just play good, hard-nosed football like these two guys. You're not accusing the Steelers and you're not accusing the Ravens of being soft. But this seems like Baltimore's year, doesn't it? Like it just seems to certain people, myself, I think this could be their year. Now, if they end up playing the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, will I still feel that way? I don't know. I reserve the right to kind of take the information at that time and make a better decision. But man, there's something that you like about this Baltimore Ravens team where they were good last year. They were able to make it to the conference championship game. And then they go out and get Derrick Henry. Two of the big stories in the NFL this year were veteran running backs in a position where people think once you hit a certain age, you're going to drop off a cliff and you're not able to come back from injuries. And there's a lot of wear and tear. And I don't dispute that, but there's two guys that buck that trend in not just a big way, but the biggest way. Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. And with those two guys going to Baltimore and going to Philadelphia, respectively, it has been a grand slam for both of those organizations. You know why? Because it's not just that they can still play in a big way, because at the end of the day, that's what really is the biggest deciding factor. But they're also great leaders. They're also great teammates. They're also great men. Just listen to how their teammates speak about them. I mean, look at how teams like, just look at the teams where they came from with Tennessee and the Giants. Like, they don't have as much talent, right? But their leadership within that locker room has taken a huge hit because King Henry and 2K Say are no longer there. I think King Henry takes a lot of the pressure and a lot of the onus off of Lamar Jackson, where he doesn't have to feel like he does too much. Having that guy in the backfield makes you stay consistent and stay with the fundamentals and stay balanced. That's one of the things last year where I think Baltimore got hurt, when Lamar Jackson more specifically got hurt against Kansas City. He was so focused on, I want to prove to everybody that I'm a pocket passer, that I'm not going to run, even though at times they're going to dare me to run. Dude, you got to do whatever it takes to win. You see that with Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't care when people are like, oh, well, you just run for first downs on 3rd and 11. You don't sit in the pocket. He's like, okay, whatever. I'll make that throw when I have to make it. But if there's 15 yards for me to run, I'm going to go run. The rings don't lie. And I feel like, as good as Lamar Jackson has been, having Derrick Henry here is just a constant reminder to do the right thing and to operate within the system. I think the sky's the limit for the Ravens. I don't know if this game's going to be close, because even though there's been some good thing from Pittsburgh this year, I don't think they have as many horses. I really don't, especially offensively. I mean, they don't have a ton of weapons on the outside. Najee, Warren, Russell, I mean, he's got the guile, the veteran guile, to keep him in there and make some smart plays. But I just think these guys are just at two different levels right now when it comes to the playoffs and where the Baltimore Ravens see themselves. They're not just looking at themselves as a playoff team, as a conference contender. They're trying to win the Super Bowl this year. There's a little bit of an element of, and I know the Pittsburgh Steelers are one of the more competitive teams in the last, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 decades in the National Football League, but just look back at their schedule, look back at their record in the postseason. It's not great. Not great. They go one and out a lot during this Mike Tomlin tenure, and I just don't see that changing against the Baltimore Ravens Saturday night. Sunday at 1 p.m., Denver travels to Buffalo to take on the Bills. How jacked up are the fans there in Orchard Park for this one? It's kind of a little bit of a similar story with the Buccaneers and the Commanders at Ray J Sunday night, where you have a team that's been a consistent playoff performer the last couple of years, Buffalo and Tampa Bay, going against a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels. I don't see this being much of a game. I think the defense, when it comes to Denver, they're going up against an absolute monster. You want to talk about somebody with something to prove. That was Josh Allen this year. He wanted to let everybody know, hey, I know I lost Stephon Diggs. I know people are saying that we're not going to be able to do anything. We're not going to make the playoffs. Oh, okay. They went 13-4. 13-4. You think about it. They started out 3-0. They lost back-to-back games to the Ravens and the Texans. They lost a heartbreaker to the Rams, 44-42. And then they lost the game at the end of the season against the Patriots that they really didn't even care about. So you think about it. Before that last game of the season, they're 13-3. They're just going to be way too much for Denver. They have something to prove. I like that they stay balanced when it comes to the three-headed monster at running back. He's got 2 tight ends in Kincaid and Knox. And the defense is just opportunistic. Sean McDermott does a really good job of keeping those guys prepared and fresh and ready. And even though they lost a bunch of guys in the offseason, didn't matter to them. They didn't stop playing. I love the heart. I love the intensity of that Buffalo team. I think they win this game. And think about it. If you're Bo Nix as a rookie, and I get it. You play in Denver. You might be used to the cold. That atmosphere in Buffalo is going to be completely different. Green Bay in Philly to take on the Eagles Sunday at 4:30. A couple of banged up quarterbacks. And I know that this has been a question to a lot of people. Which quarterback are you more concerned about? Is it Jalen Hurts or is it Jordan Love? And I think some people are looking at Jalen Hurts because of the concussion. I think it's Jordan Love. His elbow worries me. He says he's still feeling pain right now. And when you look at some of the times that they've not played as well this year, and I look right back at that game against Minnesota a couple weeks ago where, listen, the final score wasn't indicative of really how tough it was for Green Bay there. I like Green Bay, man. I do. I like what they're all about. I have a bunch of friends that are fans of the Green Bay Packers. I love some of the games. That game against the Lions in Detroit showed me a lot, but just that recent game against Minnesota, and I don't know if it might be a little bit of a recency bias, but it doesn't help that Jordan Love's not 100%. And I just don't like how at times you can take Love out of the game and he can either throw too many picks or he just doesn't insert himself into the game and take. You hear this in soccer a lot. There's guys out there that grab the scruff of the neck. Like they just grab the game by the scruff of the neck and they go out there and they're just forceful with it. Doesn't mean they're pressing and doesn't mean they try to do too much, but there's just something with Jordan Love where I think he has to grow into not just being an innocent bystander, where sometimes if he has to go run for a first down or he has to make a change at the line to really affect his offense, he needs to do that early on in games because you can't get behind. You get behind some of these teams, especially a team like Philadelphia, it's going to be awfully tough to come back. They're youngsters that they draft on the outside, Mitchell and Dejean, they're going to change his name to make him the coolest guy out there. I just think that's too much. I think it's too much for Green Bay to handle. And with Jalen Hurts, same thing I said about Lamar Jackson. All right, let's say Jalen isn't 100% as far as like the concussion, and maybe you can't utilize him in the running game as much. That may have worried you in past years, but not when you have Saquon Barkley, not when you have that offensive line, not when you have Dallas Goedert and Devontae Smith and you have A.J. Brown. Like, I think they're in a good spot. I think this is a really good matchup for the Philadelphia Eagles. And on the flip side, I don't think this is a good matchup for Green Bay. I think this could be one of the more lopsided games of the weekend. Let's skip the Sunday night game. We'll go to Monday night, 8 p.m., Minnesota at LA. The Vikings lose that game to Detroit, and their consolation prize is they have to travel across the country, play Monday night, and even if they win, they have to come all the way back. I like the Rams in this one. This is giving me the same feeling as I got a couple of years ago from the Minnesota Vikings when they lost that home opener in the playoffs to the New York Giants and Daniel Jones. I like Kevin O'Connell. I think he's an awesome coach, but Sam Darnold is Sam Darnold. And I didn't like what I saw in that game against the Detroit Lions. Some of those throws that he made under pressure, like he was throwing before he got hit. He did get hit, but it's weird. And I don't know if it's one of those things you just go back to him saying, like, I saw ghosts against the New England Patriots years ago. I don't know if he is going to be able to deal with Verse and Fisk and all those guys on the LA Rams defensive line and be able to stand in that pocket and make the necessary throws. This isn't a compilation decision. I know a lot of times people, when you're trying to assess, well, is this going to work? Is this guy going to be successful? Don't give me Sam Darnold was great in the 2024 NFL regular season over 17 games. That doesn't mean anything. This is one game. What is he going to do in this one game against the LA Rams? And I don't trust him. I don't trust that he's going to be the guy to put them in the position to make the right play to have them win. And I trust the Rams. I trust Sean McVay. He's another one's guy. He's an elite coach. And Matthew Stafford is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I like what this team is all about. Count them out at your own peril. I would not want to play the Rams if I'm the Minnesota Vikings. Again, I just don't think it's a good matchup. And, we'll see how that whole thing shakes out. Sunday night, 8 o'clock, the Buccaneers take on the Washington Commanders. I've been saying this all week, and I'll say it again before our guy Ira Kaufman jumps on from JoeBucsFan. This game is going to come down to one play late in the game when Jaden Daniels is going to try to do just a little bit too much. Whether he is going to break one tackle, break two tackles, because I could see this. I could see him getting outside the pocket. He breaks one move. He breaks two moves. He goes to throw the ball, and then here comes Shaq Barrett around the outside. Hits him as he's about to throw, fumble, Kalijah Kancey, Vita Vea, or maybe like an Anthony Nelson, picks up the ball. Huge turnover for the Buccaneers in the fourth quarter, and they go on to win this game. Is it going to be pretty early? If you're a Buccaneers fan, you should probably prepare yourself, because we know sometimes in the first half of these games, the Buccaneers do not look sharp. Kind of the nature of the beast. That's what happens when you have a lot of young players. One of the youngest teams in all of football. And I know Todd Bowles came out and said, well, we don't make adjustments at halftime. You can say that. He's more of a deferential guy. He's not going to take credit for that. And you may not make adjustments schematically. And that's where I think people, when they took Todd's comments, it's like, oh, I guess he doesn't do anything at halftime. And I was listening to Pat and Aaron the other day, and Pat was saying the same thing, where he was with me of, hey, Todd Bowles makes the necessary adjustments at halftime. That's why this team is better. So you got to give him some credit. But what I think Todd is leaving out of this discussion, and probably Pat and myself and anybody else, when we're talking about those halftime adjustments, is it's not always about the X's and O's. It's not always about the game plan. It's about the words. It's about what you're saying to these guys. It may be the motivation thing. It may be a calming effect. It may be like, hey, let's get back to your fundamentals. That's part of it too. It may not be a schematic difference where you go from man to zone or zone to man. It may not have anything to do with that. It may have to do with your vernacular. It may have to do with your candor. It may have to do with your support. And that is what Todd Bowles does with this team. And he allows them, regardless of what the reason is. I mean, he puts these guys in position. Sure as hell doesn't make it worse, because that happens too in sports. Where coaches, you want to go in there, things aren't going good in the first half. You go into the locker room, you start freaking out, start yelling at guys. And then guys that have already dug a hole, they get ditched 6 feet deeper. Todd Bowles doesn't do that. And that's where the advantage comes in when you're talking about a coach that's not freaking losing his mind on the sidelines. People that are losing their mind saying that he's not fiery enough. I can give two shits about how fiery Todd Bowles is. Look at him after a game when he's screaming, yeah. You think that guy doesn't have passion? You don't think that guy doesn't have emotion? I hearken back to the video from before the season. Go back and find the video that the Buccaneers posted, where 6 minutes of Todd Bowles speaking to that team and talking about the goals and aspirations that they had, about how things were going to look bad and about how things were going to be tough in the middle of the season, about how you had to persevere, and how that is when you're going to be able to tell what kind of character this Buccaneers team has. Go back to that video and watch it. Tell me that guy doesn't have emotion. Tell me that guy doesn't have passion. And again, this is coming from a guy that I was not 100% on board for Todd Bowles being the head coach. But for the questions, and I didn't mention this yesterday, but I wanted to mention it today. We had Matt Matera joining us on Wednesday, and he said the Buccaneers lose this game. It's a coin flip whether he returns. I think that is a massive, massive, massive mistake if they do that. You're talking about a guy that is a proven coach in this league. He is a guy that is respected around the National Football League. When things go wrong for 1 week, for 2 weeks in the NFL, people are sniping at each other. This Buccaneers team, for the second straight year, goes on a little bit of a skid during the toughest part of their schedule, and they're able to dig their way out of it. Bad teams lose to bad teams. Good teams find a way to beat bad teams and win games maybe they shouldn't. Don't tell me that Todd Bowles isn't a good coach, because he is. Don't tell me he's not a great, fantastic leader, because he sure as hell is too. The grass is not always green around the other side. I love Liam Cohen. I want him to stay here. But if he ends up going somewhere, then, hey, that's the way it goes. There is no way in my mind that I would sacrifice Todd Bowles as a head coach just to keep Liam Cohen here. I'm sorry. You were able to win the division and win a playoff game last year with Dave Canales as your offensive coordinator. Come on, guys. Let's be serious. And there's no guarantee that Liam Cohen is going to be just as good of a head coach as he is from an offensive coordinator. They say it in basketball a lot. The biggest difference in coaching is moving that 12 inches from one seat to the next. The reason why this is working is because it's everybody working together. It's Todd Bowles and the guys that he has put on this defensive staff. It's Todd Bowles and his leadership and how that trickles down to his veteran players all the way down to the young guys. Rachaad White was RB1 on this team, and Bucky Irvin has taken over. Has Rachaad White bitched and moaned about anything? No. Look at last year when Ryan Neal got taken out. He was a starter going into training camp. I went to training camp. I heard in a defense with, at the time, Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean, Antoine Winfield Jr., Ryan Neal was the guy that I heard the first day of training camp talking. I'm like, this guy's going to fit in perfectly. It didn't work out. He got taken out. He didn't start anymore. I didn't hear him complaining. Then you see Ryan Neal come back to the Buccaneers this year. You think if it was that bad, you think if Todd Bowles was that bad of a coach that he would come back? Joe Tryon-Shoyink is a guy that was drafted in the first round. He got replaced by Yaya Diaby as the starting outside linebacker last year. Joe Tryon-Shoyink is not a quiet guy. He's very loud, very boisterous in the locker room. He wasn't bitching and moaning and complaining about Todd Bowles. I'm just saying, right? Be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for, because I think Todd Bowles is a lot better of a coach than what people are saying here in the Tampa Bay area. Give the guy some freaking credit, okay? Going into the game Sunday night, I do think, and I want everybody to understand this, right? Rachaad White is going to play a part in this game. As much as we talk about Bucky Irving, as much as we discuss how great he has been this year, and he has, don't get me wrong, Rachaad White is going to have a part to play, not just in this game, but if they win moving forward. Why? Because he gets those tough yards. He's a bigger body, right? He is a guy that is really good in pass protection and a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield, and he's got some experience. He's been with this team. He's played in the playoffs. He's won playoff games, and you have to stay balanced and you have to rotate guys in there. You want to keep Bucky fresh. I want to see a couple carries for Sean Tucker as well. But just because we didn't see Rachaad White last week, it doesn't mean he's in the doghouse. It doesn't mean we're not going to see him. I think Rachaad White is going to have a couple of big plays in this game against Washington. I think he finds the end zone. Don't be surprised if you see Rachaad White with a touchdown. We had a great conversation with TJ Reeves yesterday about some of his unsung heroes. Payne Durham is another guy. Devin Culp is another guy. Is Cade Otton going to play? We'll find out. But one thing that Baker has done a really good job in this offense, and I think this is going to be a key for this team going into the game Sunday night, is making sure that you're utilizing everybody in the passing game. In the red zone, Payne Durham, and I forgot who said, Matt Matura said on Wednesday, Payne Durham's kind of becoming like that Cam Brate target in the end zone, where he may only have 25 catches a year, but 6 of them might be touchdowns. I got no issue with that. How much better has Payne's blocking gotten in the last year and a half? I love that guy. Great to talk to him in the locker room the other day after the win. Devin Culp's coming up with some big catches the last couple of weeks. Jalen McMillan, we've seen how his role has grown in this offense. The Buccaneers are not going to force feed Mike. They're not going to worry about the record. I think that is the kind of the balancing act for the Buccaneers offense. The balancing act of making sure that you're staying consistent with running the football and using that play action and making the throws easy for Baker Mayfield and spreading that football around, but also making sure that Mike gets involved. Because when Mike plays well, the Buccaneers win. That's it. Now, we don't want to go back to the Jameis days where it seems like every single first pass was going to Mike Evans and half of those passes were getting picked off. But some easy throws for Baker early on in the game to Mike, get him going, keep it balanced, keep everybody involved. I think that makes a lot of sense for this Buccaneers team. The pass rush, is it going to come from the interior? Are you going to get some random ass contributions from Anthony Nelson, right? He's the guy that seems to come up with big plays in the fourth quarter. You know how Todd Bowles does with his defense? A safety blitz coming out of nowhere, right? Antoine Winfield Jr., does he come back and come away with a big sack? I like this matchup for Bowles and the Buccaneers because I think they know what this entails. I think going up against Jaden in week 1, I know he's different. I think going up against Lamar Jackson this year, you kind of have an idea of what it takes to be successful. The discipline of the eyes of the linebackers are going to be huge in this game. And listen, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we may be looking at the final game for Levante David at Raymond James Stadium. So he's going to want to go out playing his best football. So don't be surprised if 54 has a big impact on this game. And I just like how the Buccaneers defense performs when they're playing against this type of competition. And you're going against a rookie quarterback. I'll say it once. I said it once. I'll say it again. At the end of the game, it's going to come down to one decision. Does Jaden Daniels try to force feed that throw to a short, a little area where he's not able to make the pass and he gets picked off? Or does he try to extend a play that he shouldn't and fumbles the football? That could be a key to this one. All right, let's break it all down with the Sage, the one and only Ira Kaufman, JoeBucsFan. He's out there in the car at the Advent Health Training Center at One Buccaneer Place. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Just finished my podcast with JoeBucsFan, my friend, and no surprise to you, Jay Bird, all three of us picked the Bucs to win a shootout. I think in the end, Jay, the Buck offense will have its way with, to me, a mediocre Washington defense. They got a few players, LeVue is good.
Mm-hmm.
Lattimore's back. I don't think he's 100%. He does have a tendency to get in Evans' head, but I think this Evans thing was a distraction for the Bucs heading into week 17. I believe week 18. I believe there's some truth to that. That distraction is gone. I think Evans is going to have a nice game. Week 1, Bucky Irving was not a factor. McMillan, I think, did catch a touchdown, but nobody was talking about McMillan. He's come on strong. So I'll say one more thing, Jay. At this point, and I'm not talking about 3 years from now, I trust Mayfield more than I trust Daniels in a game of this significance. The numbers and the history of rookie quarterbacks in the playoffs in the last dozen years, and I think Daniels is going to add to that list by Sunday night.
Yeah, Ira, I've been saying all week long, I think this comes down to one play, and it doesn't necessarily have to be on the last drive of the game, but I think it's one play where Jaden Daniels tries to do a little bit too much, right? He tries to do a little bit too much in the passing game or running the football, and he comes away with a turnover in a key drive, maybe in the fourth quarter, and that's the difference. I mean, you don't know what the playoffs are going to be like until you're in there, and a guy like Baker Mayfield winning a game for the Cleveland Browns, winning a game last year for the Buccaneers, like, he knows, like, hey, this is not the time to play hero ball. If he plays hero ball, it's with his legs. He'll try to run for a first down, but he's not going to try to force feed any of those tight throws. I'm with you. I think the clear advantage goes to the Buccaneers at the quarterback position because of, I know it sounds maybe just pretty elementary, but the experience.
Jay, you mentioned something in passing. I've been talking about this for about 6 weeks. To me, it is the most shocking in a positive way as a Buck, for people that are Buck fans, about Mayfield. Jay, look, he's going against Daniels, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. I'm not putting him in that kind of category. But, and last week's a perfect example, this guy consistently makes big plays with his legs. Consistently. And I mean 2 or 3 first downs a game that are backbreakers for the opposing defense because it's 3rd and 8. Last week, 3rd and 14. And look, he's not quick, he's not fast, but the guy has great pocket presence. And those 2 or 3 key first downs that keep this offense on the field and lets Liam Cohn be more creative because he's got more possessions. I think that's a factor. Is he going to outrun Daniels? Probably not. But he just had 68 yards, Jay. Nobody expected that Sunday.
Yeah, it's a great point because I almost think it's a benefit that he doesn't run all the time because you're not going to keep a spy on him, right? I mean, you're not going to worry about him in that aspect of it, but you're right. It's not always, and I said this about the college game last night. You can't look at the stats at the end of the game and think that it tells you the whole story because, yeah, you can look at him getting out rushed by another guy, but it's when he's making these big rushes and really they are backbreakers for the defense, as you alluded to. What do you think about Rachaad White? I think he makes an impact on this game. Not more than Bucky Irving. Like, I don't think he's going to tote the rock more than him, but I mean, I think Rachaad White, he's got something to prove. I'd be surprised if he didn't come away with a big first down run or if he's a guy that didn't punch one in for a touchdown.
Jay, my guy who was in the Buck locker room early right after the game, didn't even come in for bowls, but would rather go in the locker room. And there's a lot to be said for that, Jay, because you get guys by yourself before they leave. So he said Rachaad White was not a happy camper after the game. Now, they won the game and made the playoffs in the process, but he didn't touch the ball. He might have made a couple of nice blocks on pass pro, but he was not a factor from scrimmage. And Bowles specifically said, Jay, we got to get White some touches. How many is he going to get? He'll get 5 or 6 carries, and I expect Irving to get about 20. And I expect about 100 yards from Irving, including, Jay, and this is one of the great things about Irving. Every freaking game, he breaks off a 30-yard run. Every one. You don't know when it's coming. It could be to the left. It could be to the right. But it happens all the time. And we're not used to that around here, Jay. Right. We're not. Right. Even when the Bucs had a decent running game with Fournette, he wasn't known for breaking off those explosive runs. It's made all the difference in the Buck running game, Irving. I don't think they come close to having. He had 1,500 yards from scrimmage. Jay, that's a big, big number for a guy who wasn't getting a lot of touches early in the season.
Right.
I think he's the critical factor, and the Commanders don't have anybody in the backfield that can compare to number 7. Nobody.
To be fair, Rachaad White, and I noticed this all year long because when Bucky started coming on, Rachaad every single week, even when he had that big game earlier on this year at home, he's always went in the first guys in the out of the locker room, which is kind of weird because before the year he was very out there in the public. He was doing a lot of public appearances. He was hopping on a lot of podcasts, and then I don't see him in the locker room even after good games. So I don't think it's a surprise that he's not too happy because he was RB1 going into this year, and he didn't even get a legit touch in the game last week. I know you and I spoke about this last Sunday, and I've been very vociferous in my support for Todd Bowles this week. I know our buddy T. Kraz has been doing the same thing. I think it's hogwash. These people talking about Todd Bowles, get rid of him, keep Liam Cohen. It's 2 different spots. It's 2 different positions. And when you're talking about a guy in Todd Bowles, there's no guarantee Liam Cohen's going to be a great head coach. Todd Bowles won the division again. And this defense, I think there's a lot of holes there, Ira. I mean, you got an aging Levante David. Where's the rest of the linebacking core? There's no outside pass rush, even though there's, I think, 6th in sacks. Like, there's only so much he can do. I think there's a lot of undue hate when it comes to Todd Bowles.
He has not won over Buck Nation, Jay, which is a little surprising because he's won one more game each year. 10 wins is nothing to sneeze about with all the injuries, especially on defense. You make the key point, Jay, and Buck fans aren't any different. It goes on in Dallas and Philadelphia and Las Vegas. They're fans, Jay. We try to be a little more detached. I'm not putting down Buck fans, but Jay, you made the point, and I think it's worth repeating. There's this sense that the Bucs are overflowing with defensive talent. Mm-hmm. They're overstocked with defensive talent. Now, let's get real. Winfield, when he was healthy, wasn't playing up to his standards.
Agreed.
Jordan Whitehead has been disappointing. Jay, is that on Bowles necessarily? I don't think so. He ends up with 45, 50 sacks every freaking year. I don't know how he does it because he doesn't have that one TJ Watt guy. He doesn't have Myles Garrett, and he doesn't have that double-digit guy, but he's got 5 guys with 6 sacks somehow every year. Now, having said it, Jay, the defense in Dallas first half, awful. Mm-hmm. The defense against the Saints first half, awful. It's too soft. It's too soft. Well, now with Winfield, and I think Dean's going to play also, Jay, I think Bowles needs to be more aggressive. I think he needs to trust some of his guys. And, Jay, I ask for a simple thing. Simple. Contest the pass. Have a guy in the vicinity to make a play on the ball. And too often this year, whether it's the early game in Atlanta, which was absolutely abominable with Cousins, the first half with Cooper Rush, the first half with Rattler. Jay, there's no Buck defender in the zip code. and it's very demoralizing to Buck Nation, the people in the stands, and then they tighten up in the second half. I want to see that from the very first snap. I want to see passes defended on Sunday night.
Yeah, and I wonder too, Ira, like we look at it as, all right, I would want to see this, right? But you look at that, they did not play well against the Saints in the first half. They gave up 16 points. But you also look at it too, Ira, that bend but don't break defense. Like they gave up 3 field goals. So even though it was almost death by 1,000 paper cuts, like they were keeping everything in front of them. So I get it, and I agree with you. But I also think there's another aspect of, if you're going to play soft early in the game because you're going to try to keep everything in front and you're going to try to learn what the offense is trying to do to attack you, and then you're just going to give up a bunch of field goals, like you're not going to get beat like that. You're going to get beat if you're over aggressive early and you get beat over the top and you're giving up 21 points. Like they gave up 4 scoring drives in the first half, but they only give up 16 points. And then I look at the last 5 weeks. The last 5 weeks, they've given up 9 points total in the second half. So, for all the people out there, and I know you're not one of them, that are looking at Todd Bowles like, what the hell is he doing? Like, I'd much rather them figure it out and play better in the second half than in the first half.
Jay, I think part of Bowles' strategy, part of it is, we're going to get them in the red zone. We're going to tighten up in the red zone, and they're going to settle for 3 instead of 7. Now, Jay, one other aspect of the defense in Dallas, first half defense, and against New Orleans, which I think is another big factor. They can't get off the field, Jay, so Cone can't do his thing on the field. Mm-hmm. And, they're getting like 20, 22 offensive snaps in the first 2 quarters. You can't get a rhythm like that, Jay. So I know what you're saying about the 3 points and the paper cuts, but get off the freaking field and let Cone do his thing, Jay. That's another factor.
You think the Bucs, they win this coin toss, they take the ball first?
I would. Yeah. I try to set the tone from the front. I think the Buck offensive line is going to have its way. Now, I know they got a couple of good defensive tackles. Heck, Jay, they scored 37 points in week 1, and Bucky Irving was, nondescript.
No Chris Godwin, though, this time. No Chris
Godwin. But here comes McMillan. Mm-hmm. Here he comes. There's a lot for Dan Quinn to think about from a defensive, standpoint. Not many teams have slowed the Bucs down, and I don't think Washington's built to do it Sunday night.
You think this spells the end for Chris Godwin because of how well Jalen McMillan has played?
That's a tough one, Lee. I'll say this. This is the one thing I think it might be in the Buck favor. His leverage has decreased on the free agent market because of his injury. They don't know when he's going to be 100%, if he's going to be 100%. I'll tell you this, Jay. Here's the irony of the whole thing and the tragedy, if you will. And I don't think this is a stretch. I think you'd be with me on this. When Godwin dislocated that ankle, he was the best receiver in the National Football League at that moment. Yes, he was. Mm-hmm. He had 50 catches in week 7. 50. And he was outplaying Mike Evans by a wide margin. Maybe Evans draws a little more attention than Godwin. But, Jay, when you're doing it 4, 5, 6 weeks in a row, defenses notice. And it wasn't like, Godwin was, just allowed to catch these passes. He was playing tremendous football. And he's a great community guy and a great representative, just like Evans is. I think it's hard to walk away from Godwin if the price is right, Jay, and it might be because of his injury. I got to bring him back and, have McMillan as my third guy. I don't want to lose Chris Godwin.
Do you think Todd Bowles, if they don't win this game, gets fired?
No, I do not. I do think that if he would have lost to the Saints and or the Panthers, it's a whole open discussion because I think the Glazers would have been stunned and it would have been hard to defend Bowles when he had everything in his own hands, in his own power. It's different when you need help. He didn't need help. And it looked like they were going to lose the Saints game. And I'll tell you what, depending on who was available at that point, I think Bowles could have been in trouble. Now, I think it's a bunch of nonsense. This bump up Cone, we got to keep Cone. Let's get rid of Bowles. Jay, that sounds good. How'd that work out with Dirk Cutter? How'd it work out? Cutter's a really good offensive coordinator. He hired a lousy staff on defense. It ended up costing him his job. And the same thing could happen to Cone.
how different was a guy like Dirk Cutter in your mind? Because we were in those press conferences. As an offensive coordinator, Dirk Cutter was like the greatest guy. It was like, let's go out for a drink with this guy. And then when he became the head coach, and our buddy Jonesy took the wrath, but I mean, Dirk was miserable, man. He hated. How do you fix this, Dirk? I don't know. And I was like, well, all right, you probably won't have a job on Monday then. Like, it's a different animal, Ira. I just said it before you came on. They say it in basketball. The biggest change in basketball is moving 12 inches from one seat to the next. You may be a good play caller, but there's a lot more that goes into it if you're going to be a head coach.
You know, that's a very subtle point, Jay, and a very important one, because I've seen it over the years. I've just seen it. You know who I didn't see it with necessarily was Raheem Morris. He was almost the same guy when he was calling the defensive shots, and then when he replaced Gruden in 09.
How'd that work out for him?
That's just Raheem. I mean, there's not many guys like him. Jay, there's not many guys like him. He's a walking quote box, says what's on his mind, no filter. But for the most part, Jay, you're right. Cutter, a guy you want to have a drink with as a play caller, and then he goes to the podium as a head coach. And I don't know, I'll have to get back at you. I'll have to watch the film. I can't comment on that right now. I still like the guy. I think he's a very decent man, Dirk Cutter. I always have thought that.
Right.
But he had his shot, Jay. He had 3 years. You know, the offense wasn't terrible, but the defense did him in. The same thing could happen to Cone. I think if Cone gets a chance to go somewhere, Jay, I think he's going to take it. You know, unless he just absolutely hates the quarterback situation or hates the owner or the GM. It's his dream, Jay, just like so many, and he's got to give it his shot. And one last thing, Jay, when you're a head coach and it doesn't work out because extenuating circumstances, maybe, you hang around and some, you know, there's a decent chance you get a second chance. You know who that doesn't work for, Jay? A general manager. I'll give you an example. You remember John Idzik? John Idzik used to be in Tampa, used to be one of McKay's, consiglieres, around, the Tim Ruskells and the Jerry Angelos way back when. Then he takes the Jets job. Jay, it's a disaster. Who the hell can win with Woody Johnson over there?
Right.
And he's never going to get another chance. Jay, he's never going to get another chance. John Robinson in Tennessee, I think that was a mistake to get rid of him. Right. I mean, the guy they just replaced, they just fired him. I thought Robinson did a decent job at Nashville. He's probably not going to get another chance. So head coaches get another chance. I think Cone will take a job if it's offered to him this year.
How was it going up to Amalie Arena? I told Phil Esposito told me you were there because, Phil's always, he's keep me in the loop. He says, I looked up and I saw Ira Kaufman and Tom Jones and Roy Cummings, and the first word out of my mouth was, who died? And I go, Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
Man. How was it up there?
It was great. I mean, we go to one game a year. I organize it, and Brian Friesman's nice enough to give us a credential for one night because we don't have season credentials, nor do we deserve one, Jay. Nor do we deserve one. I'll be quick to say that.
It'd be a whole hell of a lot funnier if you guys did, though. I'll tell you.
Thanks, baby. But, I picked that game because it was the one game that the Rangers come to town. It was a Saturday night at the end of December. And I wanted to see Sam Rosen and send him off in style. Jay, I started in 1976, UPI, New York. I was a sports clerk. And, Sam Rosen was running UPI audio. And they had 1,000 radio stations at that time that took UPI audio. And Sam, ran that thing. And so I got to know him, and we played on the UPI softball team in Central Park on Wednesday afternoons against the New York Times and the New York Post and the Daily News. And it was a lot of fun back then. And Jay, Sam ended up hiring some kid right out of college. I think it might have been Cornell. And that guy turned out to be Keith Olbermann. Keith Olbermann got his start with UPI audio under Sam Rosen. It was great to see him. What a career Sam's had. And he's going out on the top of his profession.
Ira, just saw this breaking news. It looks like Tristan Wirfs, first team All-Pro left tackle. I know Mike Evans is the greatest offensive player in Tampa Bay Buccaneers history, but are we on the way to seeing Tristan Wirfs being the number one offensive player? It's hard. It's hard to compare offensive linemen to wide receivers. I get that. But I mean, Ira, this guy has hit the ground running. My good buddy Ian Beckles, who you know really well, like you don't play that well as an offensive lineman as a rookie. And this guy just came. And as soon as he landed in Tampa, he has been one of the best players in the National Football League. First time being all pro, first team as the left tackle representative there. Ira, it probably won't be the last either, right, brother?
You know, Jay, being one of the 50 voters on the Associated Press All-Pro team, which is the All-Pro team that everybody considers. A lot of different organizations have All-Pro teams, but it's the AP team that has the credence and the gravity. When you're presenting a guy for the Hall of Fame, you say, this guy's a 4-time All-Pro. You're talking about the Associated Press All-Pro team. Jay, I voted for Wirfs. He was on my ballot. I also voted for Levante David, second team, inside linebacker. Here's the thing about the All-Pro team, Jay. Once you're established on there, like a Trent Williams was established on there, and he was injury-riddled this year, so he wasn't a factor. Jay, once you're out there, there's a tendency that you're going to be out there again. Because a lot of players, some guy in Pittsburgh didn't see Tristan Wirfs much this year, but they go by reputation. In some cases, Pro Bowl, who made the Pro Bowl team. So I think Wirfs is going to be a 5 or 6 time All-Pro. And Jay, if I'm still doing this in 10 years, when Wirfs is calling it quits, then he's got to wait another 5 years to try to get a gold jacket. Jay, I'll be 100 years old. And you know what? I'll still be out there giving out those gold jackets. How do you like that?
And we'll still be hanging out before the Bucs games, talking shop with whoever walks by. Yeah, you're right.
I'll buy you a Cuban sandwich Sunday night, Jay. I'll buy you a Cuban sandwich.
I can't wait for it. They're free, so I appreciate the dipping into your pocket, you son of a gun. But you're right, though, and I think even more kind of to piggyback on what you just said, I think when you have positions like offensive line, it's even more of that. Because it's easy to look at wide receivers and be like, all right, well, this guy had 80 catches to 95, 1,500 yards. Like, people don't know the stats for an offensive lineman as much as some of these other skill positions. So if you just look at the Bucs, they're playing well, and the stats that you do see is like he gave up 1 sack all year long, and you're like, right, well, it's probably Tristan Wirfs again, even if you didn't see him play.
Some people, Jay, put a lot of credence in Pro Football Focus. I think isn't that Collinsworth's thing? Collinsworth was involved in that. They always mention it on the Sunday night broadcast. This guy ranked number 9, Pro Football Focus at his position. I'm not sure I totally buy into Pro Football Focus, but like you said, getting stats on offensive linemen like a guard, nobody knows how many sacks a guard gave up because they don't know what his responsibilities were on a particular play. Jay, so it's very difficult. And for Buck fans, Jay, that are wondering why wasn't Mike Evans an All-Pro? I mean, Jay, let's be realistic. I mean, Mike Evans is a hell of a player. He's going to have a gold jacket without question. But, he's not Jamar Chase this year. He's not. He's not Justin Jefferson. Now, part of it is he missed 3 games. That's not his fault. Is he the best receiver in football? No. But he's damn good, Jay, and I'm glad he's on the Bucs.
All right, Ira, what else you got going on this week? What were you talking about with the doggy? What's going on? What do you talk about with Vince Russo?
The doggy put me on ice for 3 weeks because he didn't show up for 3 straight Wednesdays. So my opening line to him, Jay, yesterday, hey, we finally got Ira back. How you doing, Mr. Kaufman? And I was prepared, Jay. I was prepared. And I said, let me tell you something, Russo. And by the way, who calls him Russo? I do. Let me tell you something, Russo. The last time I talked to you, the Falcons had a 3-game lead in the NFC South. How do you like that? And he started laughing. And, we talked about, there's a book about the New York Post. Like once Murdoch bought the paper, it's an oral history of the New York Post. Of course, those are my days of growing up in Brooklyn with the New York Post. So, Russo's been screaming about that book. I bought it. I've been reading it. He's been screaming about the Bob Dylan movie. I went out and saw that. Then there's a movie with Nicole Kidman. It's very steamy, Jay.
Yeah,
it's right up your alley.
About that steamy.
It's very steamy. So, we talk about popular culture. We do. He's very into the Birds, Roger McGuinn, Dylan. So now, Jay, I'm not making this up. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. He's not showing up next Wednesday because he's been invited to the London premiere of the Dylan movie.
Whoa.
The producers of the movie heard him talking about it, and they invited him. So he's taking his daughter. They're flying out next week, and I'm going to be left on ice again next Wednesday. I mean, where's the respect, Jay Bird? Where is it?
I don't know, but PFF has him ranked #1 father of the year now with that move, buddy. That's a big deal. And we don't know where you ranked in the PFF rankings, but you're always #1 to me, buddy. Ira Kaufman, JoeBucsFan. Go check him out, JoeBucsFan.com, the Ira Kaufman podcast. And if you're lucky enough to be in the press box before a game, there's a good chance Ira and I are sitting there talking about anything and everything. And, yeah, you never know who might be sitting at the table.
Hey, by the way, Jay, remember this guy, Greg DeCruz?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He wants to meet you and I before the game. I'm a little leery, but you know what? If he goes over by where the press entrance is before the game, I think I'll spend a couple of minutes with him.
All right, we'll do that together. We'll make sure we'll have the security because there's a bunch of cops over there, too. So
there you go, baby.
Greg's a good guy from Costa Rica, too. So we'll definitely hey, did you ever get a chance to talk to Brady the other day or what?
He blew me off, Jay. Blew me off.
Oh, my God. I was just telling somebody the other day. I was like, they were like, how's Brady when you see him? I'm like, Brady walks by. See, a lot of people don't know this, Kaufman. You and I do. When he walks by for his like pregame thing downstairs, him and Burkhart walking arm in arm down. There's 3 or 4 security people around.
That's right.
You can't even sneeze in their vicinity. And you said, hey, Tom, can I grab you for something for Hall of Fame? He goes, all right, I'll go back down and then I'll come back up and I'll get you. And then 5 minutes later, I saw you standing by the booth over there and no dice, huh?
No dice. I guess they just put out the food. He couldn't wait to get a hot dog down his gullet over there.
Hey, I've seen Greg Olson. I've seen Recher. I've seen a lot of different guys give you the time of day, though, when you need to talk Hall of Fame. So keep trying, Kaufman. You might get it.
Oh, by the way, Jay, Tuesday is the Zoom call for the select the Hall of Fame class of 2025.
All right, Eli, is he getting in? What do you think?
If I have to bet? No, he's got to wait.
Really?
Yeah. Gotta wait, baby. Gotta wait.
Who do you think? Who's the slam dunk Who's
the slam dunk guy is Antonio Gates. He's the slam dunk.
He should have been in last year, Kaufman.
That's it. He should have been in last year, and he's the slam dunk.
Anybody else?
Well, the first year eligibles, I mean, they're interesting. Manning, Kuechly, Terrell Suggs, Vinatieri. What do you do with Vinatieri? You make him wait? What do you do with this guy? I mean, it's a tough one, but then there's a queue of guys that have been waiting 5 or 6 years, like Torrey Holt, Reggie Wayne. You got little Steve Smith in there this year. Darren Woodson's been waiting. Jared Allen's been waiting. It's gonna be a great meeting. And by the way, Jay, 1 hour, maybe more, will be spent on your boy Eli Manning. 1 hour.
Wow. Is my guy Bob Glauber going to be there?
Bob Glauber's making the presentation.
I thought it was Myers.
No, it's going to be Glauber.
Oh, all right.
But Myers will weigh in and after Glauber finishes. He will.
Well, you tell Bob I said hello. I remember, he used to skate with my uncle over at Rye Playland back in the day.
He does a great stage impression too, right?
He
does.
It is iconic. I mean, he's not as good as me, and it's not as good as T-Cras's D. Orlando Ledbetter impression. But hey, Jay Bird, this is what we do around here. The one and only Ira Kaufman. Ira, I appreciate you. I love you, brother. I'll see you Are you going to be at the game Sunday night, right? I know it's a late one for you.
I'm going to be at. And if I can get the cruise into the press box, I'll sneak them up there, Jay.
And you know what, Ira? I'll make sure that Brian Ford has a pillow and a cot for you to go to sleep after the game, my brother.
My pleasure. Enjoyed it, Jay.
All right, pal. Take care. Talk soon.
See you, man.
All right, buddy. The one and only Ira Kaufman, JoeBucsFan.com. We could do that all day. I mean, I love Ira. He's on it. He is on it. And I'm excited about that Hall of Fame discussion. I'm going to have to reach out to my guy, Bob Glauber, and see if we can get him on next week because Eli Manning, that is a big, big conversation. Oh, look at that. Greg DeCruz right here. We were just talking about you, brother. We'll do what we can to kind of meet up with you on Sunday. All right. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms. Go to check out Ira as well. iKaufman76 on Twitter. JoeBucsFan.com. Check out their podcast. Check out all the stories. They have everything. If there's a little bit of a mention of a Bucks on a TV show somewhere, Joe Bucks Fan is going to find it. They're going to encapsulate it. They're going to write something. And they're going to put it up on their page, JoeBucsFan.com. Recher's Rapid Reaction Sunday night after the game should be fun. Make sure you check out the shoes that I'm going to be wearing. A big thank you to Rob Higgins for the Tampa Bay Sports Commission joining us. So great to see him. He's been battling through cancer, and for him to be able to join us today and talk about the Stadium Series and the Tampa Bay Lightning, there's just nobody like our guy, Rob Higgins. Dave Gesacion, For the Bay Clothing. Go check them out, forthebayclothingco.com. Go get you that new badass Buccaneer shirt that they have. Legit. I'm actually going to be on with the Team 980 in DC at 2:30 today. How cool is that? Also, I'm going to be on BetMGM tonight at 8 p.m. talking about the Buccaneers and Commanders. It's been a great first week here on the Jay Recher podcast, man. I can't thank you all enough for the support and the love. This has been a lot of fun. I didn't really know what to expect. You get a little apprehensive. There's a little bit of nervousness when you start a new venture, but man, after this first week, I am so motivated and optimistic, and I can't wait for Monday. I can't wait to just continue this going. So yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see what the future holds. We're going to get a bunch of great guests. We're going to do some of these on location. Sometimes, maybe we'll do it at a different time. We have other things going on, but predominantly at noon right here on my YouTube channel. Follow me on all social media platforms. I'm going to be everywhere, and like and subscribe on YouTube because those subscriptions certainly do help. I'm at like 630. I'm trying to get over 1,000. My 7-year-old nephew, Lawson, says, Uncle Jay, you got to get over 1K. I said, okay, we're going to try to do that by the end of the month. So that's the goal, 1,000 subscribers on YouTube by the end of the month. If you can help out, tell your friends. If you're a big Tampa Bay sports fan, and this is the first time that you ever watch this, let somebody know. Let somebody know that the Jay Recher podcast is here for you. Hit that subscribe, hit that like button, that notifications bell, so you get an alert every single time we go live. One more time, a big thank you to Rob Higgins. Big thank you to Dave Gesacion, and of course my guy Ira Kaufman. Dolan says, Aaron looked like you sound Cohen when he's saying Cohen. Yeah, he's getting quick, man. I love this. All right, I appreciate you all. Again, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to email me, jay@thejayrecherpodcast.com. Send me some emails, hit me up on social media. But everybody have a safe and healthy and a fun weekend. Go Bolts, and of course, go Bucks. Hopefully they win Sunday night against the Washington Commanders. Back on Monday at noon right here on the Jay Recher podcast. I am gone.